Welcome back guys, it's Mike Spine here, and today we're going to be talking about the lore behind the RTS series Command & Conquer. Remember to like, subscribe and comment down below, and remember to watch my last video on Renegade X. Alright, let's jump straight into it. Command & Conquer is a series based on the wars in alternate universes or realities. However, people seem to believe that it all started with the original game Tiberium Dawn in 1995. However, if you look at it, it started really in Red Alert, which came out the year after. But it's one of those things where EA have turned around and said the first series and Red Alert are not connected in any ways, but you can see how they could connect them. I'm going to talk about that a lot today. Right, Red Alert, if we want to start from the beginning, well, I think anyway, starts in 1946, where Einstein and a group of scientists create a time machine which they call the Chronosphere, and Einstein travels back in time and kills Adolf Hitler in 1924 at Landsberg prison, erasing the Second World War. But he comes back and finds that the world has changed, and now instead of the Nazis in Germany, it's now the Russians and the Soviet Union. Now, instead of NATO in like our original timeline, it was NATO set up to fight against the Soviet Union in case of a war. That is now named the Allies and now includes Germany, so that in case of a war ever did happen, the Allies would be there to counter the Soviet Union. Now, in the late 40s, early 50s, there was a lot of skirmish action between the borders of the Soviet Union and Europe, and the game starts during that, and you start playing for during the war, which they class as the Second World War. Now, a lot of battles going on between pushing mainly into the Soviet Union. We're going to focus on the Allies campaign today, which is the generic one accepted mainly. Right, so all the way through the campaign you're pushing forwards, and it ends up in the Battle of Moscow, where you attack Moscow, destroy the Kremlin with Stalin, ended up killing him and forcing his advisors and his loyalists underground. One of these advisors turns out to be Kane. If you play the Soviet campaign, you notice that one of his advisors, Kane, says at the end, when you win, that him and the Brotherhood of Nod will be waiting to use the Soviet Union as a means to get what they want. But focusing on the original timeline and the campaign of the Allies, then Stalin gets killed and Kane and his other advisors are sent underground. This leads into the second game, Red Alert 2, which I say follows on from the original. Many people disagree, but I still think that it follows on from the original Red Alert game, which then leads into the original Tiberium Dawn game. So Red Alert 2 starts with the Russians using psychic powers from one of their commanders, Yuri, to eliminate all of the American nukes and ballistic missiles to defend themselves with by getting the people to then detonate them themselves, and then the full invasion of America. Now, if you had played the Command & Conquer Retaliation game on the original PlayStation, you would have all met General Carvel. Spoiler alert, but during the campaign of Red Alert 2, Carvel ends up being killed by a Soviet suicide bomber, and that will become very important in the expansion pack Yuri's Revenge, which I'm going to talk about after this. However, after freeing America from the Russian occupation and Yuri's forces, which are building psychic dominators, which like brainwash people into doing what they want them to do, you take on the offensive and you start attacking Russia. And after that, you start moving up to Moscow, which leads to the Second Battle of Moscow, where the commander and his forces attack Moscow, the Kremlin, burst in and capture the Premier, Alexander Romanov, and end the war, which is considered to be the Third World War, as the second was the one in the first Red Alert game, and the third will be one in the second game. Right, the expansion pack to this, to Yuri's Revenge, is set about a couple of weeks to a month after the first game, where Yuri comes back up from the ashes of the Soviet Union, saying that he controls everybody. The commander is then sent back to San Francisco, where one of these psychic dominators is still there and is mind controlling people. You use the Chronosphere time machine, which Albert Einstein built, to go back in time and destroy whilst it was still being built. Now, in doing so, you then change time and you've got to stay and fight to try and stop Yuri before he ends up controlling everybody as he does in the end of the original game, if it had carried on like that. This leads to being two commanders, the same person in essence, fighting alongside each other, one against the Russians like you would have done in the first Red Alert game, and then you in the second game in Yuri's Revenge fighting the way you do. And it follows you fighting alongside General Carvel, who's now alive again, and you save this time, and he's back, and you're fighting alongside him as one of your commanders, along with all the other people from the original Red Alert 2 game, and you end up fighting back Yuri. At the same time, the Russians are falling back as well. Now, the Soviet campaign and the Allied campaign connect because you can't say that the missions such as when you play as the Soviets and you attack Yuri's base on the moon with the cosmonauts, that links in to the Allied campaign because that is destroyed about the same time where Yuri is in the Arctic and is being stopped and is captured by the Allies and placed inside a psychic sealed prison in the Antarctic. Now, Red Alert 3 takes place after this sometime. No one's really sure on how it happens, but we do know at the end of the game, everything seems to be okay. But then at the beginning of Red Alert 3, the Soviets are in the Kremlin planning to use their own time machine to go back in time and stop Albert Einstein, which I'll explain at the end or maybe even the beginning of the next episode. Now, Red Alert 2 connects to, or can connect to, Command & Conquer Tiberium Dawn. But there's many fan theories and fan ideas that how it connects. One of them is Nikola Tesla and his experiments with electricity and stuff like that ends up bringing the Tiberium to Earth, or at least alerting the screen to humanity, and so they seed Earth with Tiberium, which will then obviously lead on to the first game in the Tiberium series, and so on and so on. Now, this could be taken with a pinch of salt or could be believed or anything, but it was supposed to be explained in a game which was cancelled, so that could be the connecting link that during Red Alert 2, between Red Alert 1 and 2, and between Red Alert 2, end of Red Alert 2, and whatever time Red Alert 3 starts, that could be the connecting bit with his experiments, or maybe even before. The second fan theory which I came across is that Yuri and his psychic forces could actually be a part of Nod and Kane. As I said at the beginning, in Red Alert 1, Kane went into hiding as the Soviet Union had fell. Or if you play the Soviets' alternate campaign, then Kane does turn around and say that they're going to go into hiding anyway and they'll be back. This could be the fact that Kane uses Yuri to get into the Soviet Union again, and then he uses Yuri to use his psychic powers to announce to the screen that Earth is ready for seeding by the Tiberium. No one really knows why he would do this, and it's not really explained in the Tiberium series either. As I guess it's just a fan theory, so it's not really something you could place a lot of belief in. Now, this last one's not really a fan theory, but it's more of just a fact given by EA when they said themselves they were trying to connect Red Alert to the original Tiberium series was a failed experiment. So when in response to the failed experiment, they just turned around and said that the two series were separate, didn't connect in any way at all. But like I was saying before, there is ways that you can connect the two series of games, but they've admitted themselves that they're not connected, so you can look at it either way. Now, just to go back into those games and explain a few things, timelines of it. The first Red Alert game is supposed to be set during the 1950s, and Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 hasn't got a specific date or time, but I'd guess from what would be just general ideas here, I'd guess would be it's set in the 1970s, 1980s, I'd guess a good 20-30 years after the original game, which would also put it between 10 and 20 years before Command & Conquer Tiberium Dawn. Now, this could be explained because it's pretty simple. They would have to have time to rebuild, and with weapons such as the Prism Towers in Red Alert 2 could explain how people like Nod got stuff like the obelisk in the original Command & Conquer Tiberium Dawn. Now, also, in Red Alert there is references, and in Red Alert 1 there is references to an organization going to be set up to stop any future events happening, such as a Third World War, which eventually does. This group is to be called Special Operations Group Echo Black Ops 9. Now, if you have got any inkling to the lore of the Tiberium series, we all know Special Operations Group Echo Black Ops 9 to be the precursor to Global Defense Initiative, which is GDI. Now, why they would mention that being set up in Red Alert 1, which would then eventually become the GDI, it just shows that there has to be some kind of connection. Now, would the GDI precursor in Red Alert 1, which would have been set up and initialized fully by Red Alert 2, could that be who you were working for as the commander in Red Alert 2? And could that be the fact that because of the failings in assassination attempts against Saddam Hussein and people like that in the early 90s because of GDI, that's the reason why they had to become the GDI, and that is the reason why they became so public afterwards, followed by the arrival of Tiberium in Italy, discovered by Kane, which then propelled Nod up to become the rival of the GDI, which then connects the two universes from having Red Alert in the 50s through to the 70s, 80s, and then have the Tiberium universe starting in the 1990s. It connects the two, but this one group, which was set up to fight the Russians in case it happened again, because the Allies had failed originally and then failed again in Red Alert 2 during the 80s, they were then repurposed as a special operations group, which then kept on failing, which meant that they had to be rebranded. And then Nod, in the 1990s, early 2000s, capitalized on this and the arrival of Tiberium to try and gain world dominance, which Kane had always wanted, along with the religious belief of the Scrim and the Tiberium. And I want to leave it there for today, guys, and you can join me back for the second episode of the Command & Conquer lore, where we're talking about the rest of the series, which will be the Tiberium series, and how it all pieces together. So I've done the hard part today, and I've done the Red Alert series and how it combines with the Tiberium Dawn, Tiberium series, and how the whole big picture fits together. Now, there is two separate universes, which is the Red Alert Tiberium series, which I see as one, and then the General series, the Command & Conquer General series I'll be doing at the end, as well as possible theories on new games, and I'll be doing that at the next episode, end of the next episode, as well as how and where Red Alert 3 fits into this whole series and what they could build on with that. So, thanks for watching, guys. Remember to pop a like down below, a comment if you liked the video and you want to see more, and maybe even a little subscribe. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.